Seminar, and welcome to our first lesson for our course in AP Seminar, Advanced Placement Seminar, part of the capstone program in getting your diploma. Now, this is a very unique course in AP. It's not content specific. The goal of this course is to give you the skills and abilities to look at any type of arguments, whether it's in the mathematics, the sciences, or the humanities, to break down the arguments that others make, and to analyze, are those arguments valid or not? Basically, I am giving you the skills to be successful in any sort of venture that you want to pursue. But to do that, you have to make an argument. Whether that is why a company should use your marketing proposal over another, whether that is why the county that you work for should invest in more renewable resources, whether that is why you believe the Germans lost the Battle of the Bulge due to an insufficient supply train, or whether that is why you believe your particular interpretation of a line of Shakespeare is the correct one, you are making an argument. Now, this entire course is going to be how to break down others' arguments, how to write your own, how to do that effectively. And in this first video, we're going to talk about how to make an effective argument. Hope you're excited. I'm excited. Let's get started. Now, here is our guiding mission. This actually comes from our textbook, Contemporary Arguments. And one of the authors, his name is Lester Fogley, says that nothing students learn in college will prove to be more important to them than the ability to create an effective argument. Now, you've been around a lot of people who make arguments that are terrible because all they do is state an opinion. Make a statement with nothing to back it up. I think that solar energy is the wave of the future. Okay, why? I don't know. Because someone told me. Well, who was that someone? What kind of credibility do they have to make that statement? What sources did they use to make that? It's really all about figuring out how can you make good, well-resourced arguments that can convince your readers of what you are arguing. Now, one of the most important things about this is this comic I have on the right. I love Calvin and Hobbes. And in this particular one, you see Calvin and one of his friends arguing. And there's this great statement: if you want to win every argument for the rest of your life, stop trying to be right. There are so many times in your classes where you were told, right to beat someone else out, or you're going to have a debate, beat this other person, find the right answer, when really, to make a good argument, the goal is that you are trying to research the topic. You're not trying to be right. You're not trying to disregard what everyone else says. You are trying to look at everything in a particular topic as a whole to come up with the best conclusion. Now, that's strange for you. In fact, you may have never thought about an argument like that. If that's the case, this is going to be a very enlightening video for you. Now, first thing I got to talk about, what is an argument? When you make an argument, you are talking to a group of readers that probably are not going to have the same beliefs than you do. And you shouldn't assume. You're not just preaching to the choir. You're not reading to yes men. You should be making an argument to people with different backgrounds, different values, different norms, different experiences, and different opinions on that topic. Now, the goal of an argument is to change their minds, either to think your opinion is the most correct or it is the best solution, not because you talk really well, you write really effectively, you can write a great thesis statement, but by the validity of a particular course of action. By saying, here's the best reason why solar energy would be effective, the most effective renewable resource. And here is all the evidence to prove that. Not because I'm talking very eloquently and you like me, but because all of this evidence proves my points. Now, the reason why we're doing this is because most of the writing you are going to be doing at the university level will be arguments. You're not going to be writing a narrative about how this experience changed you're really not doing that in college. You're not writing persuasive pieces. No, college professors don't care how eloquent you are. They care how valid is the argument you're making. What sources are you using? Are they credible? Have you looked at other viewpoints? You have to convince me. Now, a lot of that writing, you're going to be making claims. I believe that guns should only be used by police officers and no one should be able to buy a gun. That's a claim. You could also call it a thesis statement, at least in your English and history classes. But those claims need to be supported with reasons. If I think only police officers should be carrying weapons, then I need to show crime statistics, show gun violence statistics. I need to show examples of counties or towns or countries where the restrictions of who has access to guns has resulted in a safer society. I need to show those reasons with evidence. I need to expand that claim. I'm not trying to just create a bumper sticker statement. I'm trying to prove that. And to really do that well, I need to think about other people's research, other people's conclusions that may counter my own. I have to give credibility to that. I have to say there are other viewpoints about gun control. Some people say no, people should have more guns because it makes society safer, because people won't commit crimes if they're afraid everyone's carrying a gun on them. I have to acknowledge that and deal with that argument to really make my argument good. So when you're writing these arguments, and we will be writing and breaking down a lot of arguments in this course, what do I expect you to do? What do college professors expect you to do? Well, first, you want a specific claim, a strong, specific statement. So many times I think people shoot with shotguns when they're trying to answer a question. If I just talk a lot about a lot of things in vague terms, then I have so much room to prove. Yes, but you're not telling me anything specific. Make an explicit claim. Support that with evidence. I believe that gun control would be most successful if everyone had guns, because I need to give reasons, I need to give evidence. Now, some of those reasons, if we're looking at gun control, and I say everyone should have a guns because, at least in the United States, it's guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution, Second Amendment rights, that there are towns and cities where giving people more access to guns has resulted in less violence because people are afraid to commit crimes when everyone's got a gun. However, I need to consider other positions. If I'm just trying to tell you why I'm right, and I'm not including any other kind of counter arguments and addressing that and trying to defeat those, well then I don't really have a strong argument. I'm assuming that you are all just going to agree with me and that you're never going to bring up any kind of point that says, wait, well, what about X? Now, one thing that I think your teachers have taught you wrong is that if you just throw sources in, just sources, quote, 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 and never actually analyze any of those quotes to connect with your claim, you're doing a disservice to yourself. Because all you're doing is putting other people's work together. Well, that's great, but I also need to know how you're taking that information a step further to prove your claim. And I also need you to investigate complexity. So after you find all your information, you're writing your argument, what do you actually think about everything that you're finding? The counter arguments to what you're trying to prove. Your writing should also be very clear. I need to see documentation and analysis in a very smooth, flowing format that creates a good, complete argument that isn't missing chunks, that creates this argument in a flow. There needs to be a relationship of parts, and you need to document your sources carefully. Here's the thing you gotta understand about college professors. They spend 8 years trying to get a PhD. They care very deeply about correct citation of sources because it shows respect to those people who have dedicated their lives to different topics and fields. Now, high school teachers may not care about that. You probably don't care about that, but professors do. It shows respect. Now, how do you do this responsibly? How do you make an argument in the right way? Well, first off, and this is just a little bit of a helpful hint, never, ever, ever, ever say, "in my opinion." First off, you're writing an argument. Of course it's your opinion. You're not arguing someone else's opinion in an argumentative essay or an argumentative documentary or some sort of play. We know it's your opinion. Don't say it. The second thing is, you're probably not the only person who's ever existed in the world that thinks that. In fact, you're probably going to be citing sources from other people who agree with you, so it's not your own opinion. It has been constructed as parts of many other people's opinions. Now, you can also argue responsibly by setting out the reasons for making a claim and offering facts to support those reasons. How many times have you heard something to the effect of, "Hey, Obamacare is ruining this country"? Really? How? What are you using to prove that? Give me facts, give me statistics, give me arguments. Show me some sort of leaders in economic policy who can support what you're saying. And also, you need to let your readers, because again, you're not writing for yourself, you're writing for other people, to examine your evidence and really look at the sources that you're using. If you're making an argument about global warming doesn't exist, and all you're doing is citing people from Fox News who have a very specific view of this topic, and you're citing really bad sources that are .coms from interest groups who believe this, I look at your sources and say you're not making a good argument. You're not bringing anything else in, and the sources that you're using, are they really credible? Should I really believe them? Also, you have to acknowledge that other people have different positions than you. You have to bring in counterpoints. You're not going to make a good argument as to why one presidential candidate is more effective than another if you're not talking about both of their policies. So how do you argue respectfully? How, when I write this argument, can I be respectful of other people's opinions that either support what I'm trying to say or conflict with what I'm trying to say? And it's really in your mindset. When you make an argument, whether it's in a documentary or a music video or an essay or a theatrical performance or a song or a marketing pitch, you're not trying to find your way. You're trying to find the best way. In fact, when you research, you may find that what you initially think isn't the best way, and you have to completely change your thesis. That's called a working thesis. It's all about your perspective. You're trying to find the most effective way. The idea isn't to win over your audience. It's to get your audience to trust you. It's to make them want to believe you, not force them to by beating them over the head, but by making an argument in such a way that they go, "Wow, I want to agree with what you're saying." But you also have to think about the reader's or the listener's position. Even if you think it's wrong, you have to address where they're coming from. If I am talking to a group of people, I'm going to be doing some sort of public speech, and I'm going to be talking about the dangers of strip coal mining. Well, if all of my readers think that coal mining is good and they all work for corporations that make lots of money off strip coal mining, then I have to take that into account as I'm making the argument. I have to think about where they're coming from and address the argument from their perspective. And honestly, you can't be boring. Oh my gosh, how many times have you written a research paper just very dry and boring? No one's going to care about your argument. If I'm doing a video looking like this and I am being monotone and I am talking slowly, you're going to fall asleep and not agree with what I'm trying to argue right here. You have to have a sense of humor. You have to have a distinctive voice. You have to enjoy your writing. And as you're writing, you got to think about how the readers or the listeners want to see you. If you're on a radio show and you're doing a podcast and you're talking about which NBA team is going to win the NBA championship this year, well, you gotta think, if these people think I'm a slimy, lying dirtbag, they're probably not going to believe you. So you have to get your readers or listeners to trust you. They have to see you as concerned, that you think this issue is important, that you think that it's worth talking about and trying to convince them to believe you. That you have to be well informed, that you're not just spouting out information, you're citing the sources, you're looking at multiple perspectives over a wide range of time to prove your point. And you have to be fair. You have to give the other side their due. You have to give credit to other perspectives if they make some valid points. That doesn't mean you say they're right, but you say, hey, they make some good points here, but my way is the best. And you have to be ethical. You have to, when you make this argument, basically not cheat, don't plagiarize. They have to believe that your words are your own because you've done the research. And if you do that, you will get credibility, where your readers will actually believe you by presenting a balanced overview of the issue, not just beating down a side with your perspective. You know, in my classes, we use something called an argument talk. In the last couple of years I've been teaching, where we look at an issue, and two people have to argue each side. And they gather their information, they create their claims, they gather some sources, and then one person says why they believe their argument is correct. One person says why their argument is correct. And then I actually make them, as they're listening, write down all the valid points the other person is making. Because they're not idiots. If they're bringing up important information, we need to give it some credibility. So how do we build that credibility? First thing we have to do, we have to know what the heck is at stake. If pushing renewable energies will save the earth and stop global warming, then we need to let our readers know, hey, this is important. We have to keep our readers in mind. If you're going to be talking about the ethicalness of stem cell research, and most of your readers are 18-year-old teenagers who know nothing about stem cells, then you shouldn't just start using jargon they can't understand and just jump right into it. You have to give them some background. You have to make them knowledgeable. You have to think about alternate solutions and points of view. How many times have you been in an argument with someone and they're just saying one thing and you're trying to give them counterpoints, but they don't even care, they're not even acknowledging you. All they think is that they're right. Their opinion isn't very credible. You have to be honest. If other arguments are valid, if they're important, if they make good points, you need to give credit where credit's due, and you got to write well. It doesn't matter if you have the best sources, if you have the best facts and statistics and reasons and evidence, and all this is really great. But if you are a terrible writer, if you're a boring writer, if it's not organized, if it doesn't flow, then you destroyed your credibility because no one will be able to really understand what you're trying to say. And really, I think our meme cat summarizes it fairly well. They have to be able to trust you. Well, that's it for this lesson. I hope you learned something you didn't know before. Thanks for watching.